Oh, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans, the live streaming podcast where your favorite hosts bring some of the most interesting topics of the week to you and to our panel to discuss and ultimately determine if it's truth, lies, or shenanigans. And of course, we always try to have some fun with shenanigans of our own along the way. My name is Neo Nix, and I'd like to wish my dad and all the fathers out there and all the fathers that want to be fathers, like myself, a very happy Father's Day. We have a fantastic show for you and some interesting topics. We'll start with our guest spotlight on president and founder of Rethink Resource, Shane Harker. We'll be asking all about him and find out how he's helping to save our planet. Then, Robbie Rock wants to talk about another racist statue being torn down, but this time in Canada. Lizzie is bringing a discussion on the one-time Twitter queen, Miss Chrissy Teigen, and the recent shenanigans with her. And Gianni Storm brings us a story about a father suspected of double murder of his daughter and wife and attempted murder of his son, being allowed to defend himself and question the 11-year-old child. And as always, we'll start with a quick fire question and end with some fun in Shenanigans, the game show. But before we get into the show, I need to introduce you to our hosts, our gamer, tech guru, bona fide rock star with the rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Robbie Rock.
Man, what? I get to go first? Is
You
this my
get to go
Father's Day treat? This
first.
is amazing.
Father's Day.
Right? Totally threw me off. I was just like, "Aw, I'll take that as a Father's Day gift." That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my kids. I got some wonderful Father's Day wishes earlier in the day, and it just brightened my day. And we're still being COVID safe, and we're getting together in a week and a half for my daughter's birthday. So it'll be nice to have everyone together then.
Yes, happy Father's Day, Robbie Rock. All right.
Father's Day.
And streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, our favorite model, actress, and co host of TLS Unscripted, Miss Gianni Storm. Woo-hoo.
Happy Father's Day to everybody, all the fathers out there and the single mothers. And I've been having a good week. I feel like I've been in the Amazon rainforest because it's been raining every single day of the week here in Atlanta.
Oh, really?
But
Is it raining down there? I didn't know that.
it doesn't stop. It's not raining where you guys are at in DC? Wow.
Oh,
No,
nice.
it's
Kind
beautiful.
of hot.
Day. Beautiful day. Beautiful day.
You guys just have the cicadas. We have the rain. You guys
We did have some cicadas. It was raining cicada pee for a while.
Oh, you guys don't have any cicadas down there? You guys don't have any cicadas down there in Atlanta?
I haven't seen any in the city. Yeah, I've heard about some in the country, but for the most part, no. But it's been good. It's just been rainy out here.
All right. And our professor, editor, journalist, sports savant, and birthday girl, Miss Lizzie Enders. Ooh, Lizzie, happy.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday, fun day. So just a quick notice. Technically, today is not my birthday. My birthday is this coming Thursday, June 24th. However, for some reason, Facebook decided to make yesterday my birthday. And so I got all of birthday shout outs, whatever, including a very nice birthday call from Rob B. Thank you. I appreciate it. But then I had to go back because I don't want anyone to, throw all of the stuff they had planned for me on Thursday away. So I had to go back and let everyone know it was not my birthday. My birthday is this coming Thursday, but the celebration starts today.
That's right. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Lizzie.
In addition to birthday, celebrations for my old ass, I honestly want to extend a happy Father's Day, not only to Rob B, but also to all of the fathers out there. I grew up a daddy's girl. My dad was very important and very significant to me in my life. I think about him every single day. He passed away 29 years ago. However, he's still in my thoughts. So happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there. I think a lot of men don't get enough credit for being great fathers,
Mhm.
for being amazing fathers. So this is for you all out there. Happy Father's Day.
Oh,
Yep.
happy Father's Day.
All right. And a quick reminder, be sure to check out TLS Unscripted. Gianni Storm is co-host of TLS Unscripted. Check her out Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find her at TLSshow.com, or you can listen to it the next day on TLSpod.com. All right, we got to get into our show. We got a packed show today, so let's get started.
Get it, get it.
Oh, you know what? My buttons just aren't working today for some reason. Let's see if we can figure it out. All right. This week, after the Senate unanimously approved it, Joe Biden signed the law making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Now, for those under a rock this weekend, June 19th, 1865 was the day that the last of the unfreed slaves in Texas were informed of their freedom. So, my question to you is, what now? Let's start out with Lizzie Ender's birthday girl. What now?
First and foremost, what now? We replace the word celebration to observation. We're observing Juneteenth. We're
Observing.
observing.
Okay, observing. Robbie Rock?
The national holiday recognizes an important event, but it doesn't correct current issues in the system.
All right, Gianni?
What's next? Reparations.
Oh, you want reparations. Yeah, similarly, I want refund the police, police reform, take the money from corrupt cops and put it to better social programs. So now a lot of black people took to Twitter and TikTok pretty angry, actually, saying this is not enough, calling it performative activism. So are we happy with Juneteenth as a federal holiday or not? What do you guys say? Let's start out with Lizzie
Yes.
again.
Yes, we're happy. And who
Yeah.
said that this is the end result? Who said that this is where we're going to stop? I
Good.
think we got to get out of this mindset that we can't multitask, that we can't ask for one thing while still having our foot on the gas and demanding other things. And I think it's offensive. All of the people, including a beautiful older lady named Opal Lee, who's 94 years old, who is from Texas, who has been fighting for getting Juneteenth recognized nationally for decades. Like we gotta acknowledge this. If we can celebrate July 4th, then we can fucking celebrate Juneteenth.
With you.
Okay? That doesn't mean we stop caring and we stop fighting for all in all other areas of equality and social justice. Like you guys would be surprised, honestly, you guys would be surprised at the number of students that I've had over the past 2 years at Howard University who never heard of Juneteenth, never heard of the Tulsa riots, who never even heard of Black Wall Street. Like this is an opportunity for us to observe, educate, and learn.
Yeah.
So I applaud it. I applaud it. But that doesn't mean I'm still not going to put my fist up. That I'm
Right.
still not fighting for rights. Let's go, y'all. Let's go.
What are your thoughts, Gianni?
I think that I don't know why people are complaining. It kind of reminds me of the was it Sojourner Truth on the $20 bill? It wasn't sure who was it?
Harry Tubman on 20.
That's for but it kind of reminds me when they were complaining about that. It's like we get I know it's not like a leap towards what we want, but it's somewhere. It's progression. So it's progress. So it's I'm okay with it. But I can see why people are mad. That's why I said what's next is reparations. So
All right.
I understand.
Robbie?
I love what Liz and Johnny are saying. It's people are going to feel how they're going to feel. It's there are some people who are more militant with their views who are going to feel angry regardless of the progress that's being made. But like Liz and Johnny were saying, if you're observing it, you're recognizing, and it's a day that people reflect and actually learn something about their history, then it's momentum in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with both of you, all of you guys, because I mean, we have to start. I mean, there, like Black History Month was a step in the right direction. Well, actually, Juneteenth itself was a step, one of the first steps in the right direction. The Emancipation Proclamation. We're always moving towards something. We know we're not going to all of a sudden sign a law tomorrow that solves our problem. It's not. There's no law that we can pass that suddenly solves racism as an issue. It just doesn't work like that. So every step we're making towards solving, making that solution is a fantastic step. So when I was watching some of these TikToks and Instagrams and all this stuff about, oh, it's not enough. We need this. We need reparations. We do need those things. But we still have to celebrate and be happy about this. I heard someone say something about one of the people said something about by by approving this holiday, it just means that more white people are going to have the day off, or more wealthy people are going to have the day off, while while black people have to go to work because they have to go to a restaurant. I'm like, really? That's not what this is about. It's
It
not what it's about.
I mean, did we say that when so there's a difference again between a national holiday and a federal holiday. This is a federal holiday, so not everyone in the United States has this day off. But did we say the same thing when MLK, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, was made a national holiday? Did we make these excuses? Did we say, okay, this was something to pacify us? No, we acknowledged it as a day of atonement, as a day of education, as a day of healing and learning. And this should be treated this exact same way. If we could celebrate, if we could have Columbus fucking Day on the calendar, never even set foot in the United States, never set foot in North America, he's in the Bahamas. If we could have that on the calendar, then we can celebrate Juneteenth, which is a holiday that has been celebrated in this country for years.
Yeah.
Depending on state
it's been a holiday in DC for years.
It's just not nationally. So now we're getting some national recognition and hopefully getting the opportunity to educate people about American history.
All right.
And as your token Canadian, I appreciate learning about Juneteenth.
Did you say token Canadian?
Dude.
Love you, Rob.
But it was absolutely an education, because Juneteenth wasn't something I was familiar with until you brought it to my attention. So it is all about education and making sure that people understand the history and why it's important.
Absolutely. All right, so that's our quick fire. And now let's get into it with our guest spotlight. Today's spotlight is on the president and founder of Rethink Resource, Shane Harker. Hey, Shane, welcome, Shane. How's it going?
Hey, guys.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Let me quickly introduce you to our audience. Hailing from the Toronto area in Canada, Shane Harker is hell-bent on changing the world, one piece of garbage at a time. He is the founder and president of Rethink Resource, an environmental waste diversion company focused on making sure trash is not wasted in landfills, but instead recycled and upcycled in the best ways possible. Rethink Resource has diverted 88% of all the waste they've collected away from landfills. Now, Shane started his career working on a transportation dock at the age of 15, and then gained over 25 years of experience in business management, leadership, transportation, and waste. Prior to starting Rethink Resource, Shane is a dedicated father and husband, and an amateur triathlete who also has a weakness for Reese's peanut butter cups, which is one of mine too. So, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you having you. So, feel free to go a little bit more into a little more detail about yourself, and please just add one thing in there that people simply can't Google about you.
Okay. So when I knew that question was going to come, I Googled myself, because I'm like, can you Google me?
That's funny. I don't think anyone's ever done that.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, there's a couple things there. So the thing that you wouldn't find about me is that I'm a huge fan of Celine Dion, and it's people kind of
Wow.
laugh at it. Like, you don't see me in person. I'm a pretty big dude. So when I say that, people are like, "Oh, really?" And a little bit of funnier thing about that is when I met my wife. I think on like our second or third date, we went out, we're dancing, a couple drinks, and like Biggie Smalls comes on, and I knew like all the words. She's like, "Oh, I love that you know all that." But then later, I'm like, "Oh, hey, Celine Dion's coming to town. Can we go to the concert?" She's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, let's go." And then when we're there at the concert,
Nice
we're
segue.
kind of
Nice
close
segue.
to this.
Oh, Celine Dion.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, close, right? And then we're kind of to the side, and Celine's walking by, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you go down there and try and get like a selfie with her or whatever?" And she was setting me up though, because my wife took a picture of me like trying to take a selfie with Celine, and she posted it on her Instagram. And so yeah, that's my Celine Dion story.
That's awesome.
Can you sing?
That's
Can
really cool.
you sing "My Heart Will Go On"? Can you sing some Celine Dion
Can
for
I
us?
You
sing
want
it?
him to sing it? Uh-oh.
Uh,
I'm willing to hear it.
I could, but I think your viewers might not come back. So we'll save that for Celine.
All right. Well, my first question: how exactly did you decide to get into waste management?
Well, so it's interesting. My brother is a City of Toronto 30-year garbage man, and all the things they always told me about it. I was in transportation, my whole life, and I got a call from a recruiter to go and work for the largest waste hauler in North America, which is where I actually met Rob's wife. And um and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. But in residential waste collection, a lot of contracts, they work 4-day work weeks, and when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I'm in, let's go. And so I went to work there, and that's when I learned about anaerobic digestion and organic waste and all of these things. I mean, before I started there, I was a bachelor in a basement apartment. I didn't even recycle.
Mm.
um and I was like, oh, it's just one bag of garbage, said 8 billion people, later. And then, when I got back into transportation, and when I was approaching 40, looking at my son and my wife, and I was quite successful in what I was doing, but something was missing. And so I wanted to start a business, and I quit with a very supportive wife, and it kind of morphed into Rethink Resource. So
I love that. All right, Lizzie.
mostly because that's what I knew how to do. So
Well, hey, go do what
yeah,
you know. Do what you're passionate
yeah,
about. Lizzie.
yeah.
I have a couple of questions. The first is explain to us exactly what it is that Rethink Resource does. Like, what does your company do?
Sure. So we actually do a couple of things. And so the company started as a brokerage. I had managed employees for so long, and I kind of didn't want to do that. The plan was, I come to your business, hey, you have waste. We're going to introduce a recycling program. And as a broker, I could, get better pricing. So, we would charge you about the same, maybe less than what you were paying, but introduce recycling. And so I make a little bit of money. We divert more from landfill. Like, I knew that I wanted to have an impact in the world. Like, I didn't pay myself for the first 3 years. I left a very
Mm.
lucrative job, and so I had to divert waste. And so that was the plan. But then the very first customer, the vendor couldn't do what we needed to do. So next thing you know, I'm picking up paper for recycling, and cans and bottles in my Dodge Journey. And shortly after, a couple customers, customer said to me, said, can you give us a diversion report? And diversion reports are like, this is how much you divert, but it's not real data. It's averages. Like, you have 2 recycle bins, 2 garbage bins, on average they weigh this much. So he said, well, why don't you actually weigh the stuff you pick up? I'm like, sure, we're not making any money, so why don't we make the process more inefficient? But I knew data was important, right? And so we did it. And I'm like, we'll figure out how to make money eventually. And so, we did that for a couple of years. It was kind of a side hustle in the garage. And then, we focused on the business and started growing. And, one of my customers, so this gets into the sort of the second part of the business. So one of my customers got their diversion report and they're like, hey, it was a burger shop in Toronto. He says, hey, we're only diverting 57% of our waste. How do we improve that? And I said, well, you're a quick serve, like it's a local burger shop, but it might as well be like a McDonald's or whatever else.
Hmm.
It's all your packaging is garbage. And he said, well, like, how do you do? Like, I'm like, I don't like, there's compostables and biodegradable. And he's like, well, you're the green guy, figure it out.
You're the
So
green guy.
2019, I actually went to the US Composting Conference in Phoenix, Arizona. And what was key to me is I wanted to make sure that whatever we did, it wasn't greenwashing and it was like legit, because there's so much out there, green this and echo that. And so, I'd done a little bit of research and I figured out that there's actually compostable packaging. Pretty much anything you can get out of any, quick serve restaurant, you can get in a compostable. But so I went there to the conference and learned, and then I came back and we did a pilot and we swapped out all of their waste or their packaging, sorry, for compostables. But then the next step was that it's like, can you actually, nobody wanted to take the stuff. I'm like, could you actually compost it? So we again, I have a very patient wife. I built a pretty large composter in my backyard and we compost
Oh,
stuff.
Wow.
And it didn't stink. When you get the recipe right, compost is a recipe, it didn't stink. And so we composted it. And then so we started rethink packaging. So now we sell only compostable packaging, and we pick it up and we bring it to a composter. But the kind of the coolest thing we did was we took the compost, mix it with some soil, put it outside the burger shop, and we grew lettuce and tomatoes in it. And then they died because
What's
I'm
the
not a
face,
farmer,
Liz?
and I planted it too late. But the great thing about compost is we saved it till next year. And so the final sort of segment to this was, we ate burgers with lettuce and tomato on it that we grew in the compost that came from,
That's awesome.
the waste in the packaging. And so, down the road is Rethink Farms. They're trying to buy a farm now because I have to truck the compost, 2 hours east of Toronto, to compost it. So we're looking for a farm just outside of Toronto where we can do it locally. And then there's been some evolution on the data front, and we've developed our own software and stuff. And we're trying to get bigger, so there's some neat things coming there. But the meat and potatoes of it is packaging, pick it up, compost it, and that's what we do.
That's
so you're
wonderful.
just segueing right into my next very short question about composting. So
Okay.
I am deathly afraid of dirt, bugs, worms, waste, all that stuff. And so I live in an apartment complex here, so I don't have to worry about composting. Like, we're required to recycle as best we can.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to be a homeowner in the next couple of years. And I have all these
Okay.
friends now that have a compost. When I lived in Finland, that was when I was first introduced to composting. We had a big compost in the back, and I threw up the first time we went out there. And so, what do you say to myself who's just like, oh my God, that's so gross? Like, I understand the importance for the environment, but to me,
Yeah.
it's just gross. So you saw my face when you just said that you ate like vegetable compost. Like, what?
Yeah,
That's
but
so crazy to me.
so Well, so like we're not, when I told my niece about this, she's like, oh, that's so neat. And I'm like, I didn't invent this stuff. This stuff's been going on forever, right?
Yep.
Like farmers used to come into the city and bring vegetables and they take the stuff out and they mix it into their soil, and it's the nutrients that go back into the ground. I mean, the vegetables you're eating probably,
Yeah,
use
most certainly.
cow manure
Cow manure.
as a fertilizer, right? So you just don't see it. And
I don't
what I
want
would
to
say
see
is
it.
grosser. Wait,
I don't want to see it.
in a second, I'm going to tell you about black soldier fly larvae. You want to get grossed out? Google that, because that's a whole other thing that we're working on. And so,
Black soldier fly larva. I'm gonna have to check it out actually.
yeah, it's a particular kind of fly. Check it out on YouTube, and
I'm gonna
it'll
see if I
eat
can find it right
anything.
now.
And then we're going to start that on the farm. We're gonna take food or organic waste, and we're gonna feed it to larvae. And there's a couple companies doing this all over the U.S. and Canada. And then the larvae are like super efficient at converting that food into protein and fat, and then they feed it to fish or to chickens, right? Which it's like just goes back into the food system. So, but about the compost. So here's the interesting thing. My wife is like, "Hey, isn't that thing gonna stink?" And I was like, "Well, no, not if the recipe's right." Mind you, this is the first time I made the recipe, and I kind of lucked out. Like I was like, "Yeah, babe, I got it. Don't worry." And I really did get lucky. But so here's the thing: is when you compost, if you do it right and you either turn it enough or you get air into it, it heats up and it goes up to, like, we got ours up to 73 degrees Celsius. It was above, and I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius here. Um, and so it was above 70 for 10 days. And so when the recipe is right, it doesn't really stink. And the flies won't go to it and drop off the babies, so they don't get the maggots and stuff. So versus like if you put it in your garbage bag and it doesn't get picked up, or the critters get in it, like in Toronto, raccoons are crazy, and they rip the bags apart and there's maggots all over the place. That's grosser than recovering. The premise of the company is rethink resource, to use that as a resource, right? And then there's a whole other side of it. When it goes to landfill, it creates methane gas and it's horrible for the environment and stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I got a picture of the was this black soldier fly larva.
Oh my goodness.
That's just for Lizzie.
But there's a video. There's all kinds of videos on there where they do like a time lapse and they just like devour a fish, or somebody threw like a Big Mac meal in there or something, and they just kill it. Like they'll eat anything, except that you can put your hands in there, they won't eat you, like if you're live.
Yeah.
I'm barely making it through the cicadas down here. Now we got, what is it called? Black what larva?
Black
Black
soldier fly.
soldier fly larvae.
Okay. Y'all have to give me a minute.
So
here.
they're
I'll get
worms?
there. I'll get
Alright,
there.
let me
I'm
get
sorry, Gianni?
They're
say-
worms? Those larvae are worms, or are they flies?
No,
Like
larvae is like the baby fly. It's a maggot, and it's just a particular kind of fly that eats more and converts it better into protein and fat.
All right.
Okay,
So
interesting.
let's get to some of these comments online. So question was, how wasteful are you guys? Lady Annie Burrell says, I try as much as possible to buy anything that does not involve plastic, compost, upcycle. Thank gosh for the Hibbs is patient, because the project in my house are never ending. Jeanette Brown says, one thing I actually miss about the suburbs is composting. I grew up composting and was happy to return to it in the burbs, but back in the city and apartment life now, and back in the city and apartment life now, and back to garbage disposal. Jacqueline Rob says, my condo building recycles, but shockingly, my work building does not. Oh, and Mike Wolf said, Lizzie, it's not like there's an option where your garbage magically disappears. You got to get rid of it somehow. Composting is the best way.
I just don't like to think about it, but I'll get there. I will get there. I will get there.
There's a whole, like, I met a whole bunch of startups around different parts of the US, because so in Canada, most municipalities, even rural areas, have green bin collection. And in Ontario, I think it's by 2023 that every residential has to have access to it. There's certain states that have a mandate to divert organics from landfill, but there's all kinds of startups where you can sign up and they'll give you pails and you put your organics in there, they'll pick it up, and then they'll even bring you back the finished compost, which doesn't have any critters or anything running around in it, but then you can mix it and grow some vegetables at home or something. Like, there's all kinds of startups in the US that are doing that.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's missing here, because in most of like the apartment complexes, condo complexes, they have like regular garbage, they have recycles, but not anything for organic living stuff. So I think that's the next phase. I think that's the next phase here.
All right, we're going to go to Gianni Storm next. I was going to go to Rob Bean, but I want to go to Gianni Storm next.
I actually had a question on any tips or advice you had for waste diversion, like something I could do, like something I could start. I know I can obviously like recycle, but is there a step above that like that
That
we
was
could
my
do?
next question for him at the end. That's a
Well,
good
so
question.
it's actually the step before that, right? And it sounds kind of cheesy, but you know, we all learn when we're in school, like reduce is the first R, right? So the you know, in my space, in my circle, the people that I connect with, you know, I know a woman that sells these like zero waste kits. And when I met her, we went to like a cafe and they didn't have a green bin program for the organics. And she had like a mason jar that she put the 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 scrap in there and brought it home, right? So I mean that's next level. And so you know I would say, you know, as consumers you can pay, like, you know, spend your dollars at the places that do it, but I would say reduce is always. And I'm not, guys, I'm not perfect, you know. I probably in the last, you know, week or so I went through a McDonald's drive through. um you know, but consumers are going to consume, right? And so that's why we got into the compostable packaging. So I don't know that, you know, I would say that reduce always first. You know, reduce consumption, reduce packaging. Look to the companies that are like thinking about their packaging. You know, and support the companies that are doing things different. In Ontario and the GTA, there's again all kinds of companies. Like there's a company that'll deliver, you know, soap to you know, soap in reusable bottles, and there's all kinds of markets that are popping up, you know, and that'll deliver soap. And I just switched to a straight razor and a, you know, the way it used to be done, like a, you know, a brush and you know, I'm not having any waste. So sorry, I
Interesting.
kind of don't know if that answered your question, Gianni, but I would say reduce always, and if you want to get hardcore, carry a mason jar with you.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my question. My ending question is like anything that anybody can do
Sorry.
that's sort of different. No, it was a great question. So,
I,
you know,
So what I would say though is that, you know, in waste and traditional solid waste, people are really concerned about plastics.
mhm.
And you know, it really started with the turtle video, and it frustrates, you know, the hell out of me because, you know, straws are like this big of the problem, right?
I
And
was thinking that
so it became a problem, and everybody switched to
paper.
you know, compostable straws, but they're all going in the same bin and they're all going in the landfill.
That's what I was
um
wondering.
what I would say
Actually,
is Lizzie, is the number one thing we can do is divert organic waste. So if you're in a building, talk to them about starting a program. Find a place, because that's the biggest impact is organic waste goes to landfill. It's the biggest impact on the environment, and that's the number one thing anybody can. So reduce, don't waste it, but then divert it from the landfill.
I
Okay.
actually have because I think you know, the paper straws, I think they're disgusting and
I
gross.
hate
So I
paper straws.
do have my own set
They are
of
weird.
metal straws that I will take with me to restaurants now because I
Yeah.
can't stand like the paper straws. But another thing I think people aren't aware of, and I'm not sure how popular this is in Canada. Do you guys have like all of the meal plans? Like people who
Mhm.
subscribe to, you know, you get like 5 meals per
Yeah.
week from this
Hello
Yeah,
Fresh,
yeah, yeah.
meals to go,
Plated.
that stuff. Yeah.
exactly. That I remember when I was subscribed to one meal plan, the amount of waste that they use,
It's
plastics and
true.
all of that stuff, when
That's
they
true.
send them, it's ridiculous.
That's true.
Like the packaging is just so crazy. And
I
this
hadn't
is
even
when I lived in,
considered that.
and I remember opening the box and I'm like, okay, why is this big old piece of plastic sitting here? Like
Hmm.
it was just for no reason. And so that's another area I think, even though people are thinking about plastic bottles and straws, that's another area now where there's a lot of waste being
Food
utilized
package.
because
Well, and
those plants are very popular. They're very popular.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
they are.
because they're convenient, right? So as an entrepreneur, I try to watch movies that are inspiring. And if you've ever watched The Founder, you know, where the you know, Ray Kroc goes to the first McDonald's stand and he gets it, and they're like, "Oh, just throw it out." It was like, as an entrepreneur that wants to impact the world and build a big business, I was like moved, but then I was like almost crying because I'm like, the amount of waste that these
Mm.
QSRs pump out is crazy. And so the challenge, you know, with say eliminating plastic, and at the end of this year we have across Canada is a single-use plastic ban, and it's only certain items, but we're going to waste more food. right? And that's a whole other thing that I've learned about. Like in Canada, we waste almost 60% of the food that's created, that people could be eating. And so, um,
Wow.
locally, in fact, one of my customers, if I can get a shout out to BioRaw, they do these, ready-made vegan salads, and they're for sale in a lot of grocers, but they also do the home delivery. But they are in compostable plastic bowls, and they're like as about as zero waste as it gets. So there are these options. There's another one that's not a customer yet. It's a pizza joint, and it's like a subscription. My son loves pizza, but it's really good, and you get 10 pizzas. And they're about to switch to compostable plastic. So everything that is out there is available in a compostable. We don't have the infrastructure yet everywhere, but we're even talking about like how do you get that stuff to send back? So if you really want to compost it, like ship it to Rethink Resource. So we're moving in that direction. And it's so I would say if you do that, if you get those meals, see if they will entertain switching, because the difference is only about 10% on the cost of the packaging, just the packaging, which is a small portion of the cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Robbie Rock's question. Well, wait, a couple of comments online before I get to you, Rob. Sorry. So Paulette Bertrand says, this is how it works in Quebec. Green bins are provided, but you have to abide by the rules. Respect the environment by replacing waste in all forms. Ephraim, my father, says, every resource is good for something. What is waste for something useful? What else can waste be used for? We need to research more alternative uses of waste. And Mel Blaine says, there are a lot of rules, regulations for shipping packages. I had to take a 2-day course for my job for it. It's not green at all.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Jeanette Brown says, Lizzie Enders, teeny tiny bottles of olive oil. They're cute, but as wasteful as can be. All right, Robbie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's right.
So Shane, the environmentalist Boy Scout in me says, thank you for all of your hard work. I think what you're doing is amazing. Your business model is something that I believe in also. I think what you're doing is remarkable. Your discussion and the questions asked by my fellow panelists have emptied my bank of questions. So based on our conversation pre-show, please tell me about your vision for your company's future and expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thank you. We like many companies, the pandemic hit us hard, dropped 53% in revenue, and it was kind of crazy because we just kind of started making it. I had just started paying myself a bit of money in 2019. And we were heavy into like the food and restaurant space, and we did a bit of a bit of a pivot, and we finished strong the year. So we have our eyes set on remembering that I wanted to create impact in the world, and I used to work for the largest in North America, so I know that the market is out there. And I also don't like the snow. So we want to start up actually in Los Angeles, Southern California. And
Cool.
it's strategic. And then so I think it's Oregon, Washington State, California. So basically all the West Coast. There are various different types of landfill bans on organics. And then like New York State, Rhode Island, there's a couple over in the East Coast. So part of I don't want to be in the snow in the winter, so we want to start up down in Southern California, and also because of the landfill ban. Like right now in Ontario, there's nothing saying you can't throw all of that stuff into the garbage, and so we're heavy into the food waste space, and it just evolved that way. I mean, we handle all wastes for everybody. And so we want to start up down there. And also, like the greater Los Angeles area is 27 million people. Like it's almost the size of Canada population wise. And then grow. And it's really about, we're a small company, but a year ago we were 5 people, and I think we're 18 now. And I said to everybody, towards the beginning of this year, I think we were at 4 million pounds, and we're on our way to 1 billion. And how do we get there? Just by doubling every year. And so that's the vision. The other part to that is evolving the technology component. I'm a bit of a nerd, and we got some custom software being developed, and we're about to do a pilot with a large grocery chain in Canada. And basically, we're going to sort of analyze the waste because reduce is the first R. So we're going to use AI technology to analyze the waste and give the data back to the grocer. And eventually we'll use it for all of our customers. Like, this is what's in your waste. Why did you have those 22 apples that weigh this much? And then they can be like, okay, why is that there? And then take steps to reduce it. And meanwhile, we'll be hopefully diverting that, grow our partnership with Second Harvest, which is a food rescue agency in Canada. And, they get food, breaks my heart. I grew up, pretty poor single mom. And I don't remember ever being hungry. But, we're throwing food away into the landfill that should never get there, and it should always go to people first. So our model has really evolved, like feed people, then animals, then the larvae for the animals, and then compost. And so
Wow.
the hopefully to get the data to the customers to say reduce it first. I mean, essentially I want to work my way out of a job, but there's always going to be something to collect. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
Wow,
Awesome.
Shane. Amazing.
Any final questions from anybody on the panel?
No, I just wanted to say I think the waste of food is another conversation
Yeah, I
that
was
we
thinking that as he was talking.
different day because Shane, I gotta tell you, I cook a lot, but I also waste a lot of food.
Me
Yeah.
I
too.
just out my refrigerator yesterday and I was throwing away vegetables and all kinds of things that I'm just like, you didn't even touch this. And now
Yeah.
it's trash. So I think that's another conversation that we may need to bring you back on.
Yeah, I know
To
there's a
help
few
us.
things in my refrigerator right now that unfortunately I'm going to have to throw out.
It's a problem.
Same.
It's a problem, man. Woo!
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
I'll,
It's a big
go ahead.
problem.
I was going to say,
One stat
okay,
Sorry,
go
one
ahead, Shane.
stat I'll share with you about that is, and it was Second Harvest. They got with some universities, and I don't think there's been any research like this in the U.S. But in Canada, we waste nearly 60% of the food that's created for humans to eat. So, like when you think about it, we waste twice as much food as it takes to feed the
To
country,
eat.
and there's hungry people, right?
Wow.
And we got
And so
hungry people out here. Woo!
as this has evolved for me and you
I wouldn't be
learn
surprised if the
stuff,
U.S. is
now I'm
similar.
like, am I growing fast enough? How am I, like it's kind of heartbreaking.
I'm
That
sure
is
the
heartbreaking.
U.S. is very similar. I'm curious what the stats are for the U.S., but it's probably the same, if not worse.
Guilty. I am guilty. I am guilty.
So Paulette Bertrand says, the world needs more people like you, Shane. Thank you for your concern in making this happen. So Shane, I want to give you, before we close out, I just want to give you a few minutes to say any final words and then tell people where they can find you and find out more information about you and your company.
Sure. So I think the first thing I'll say is Happy Father's Day to my father. I haven't, because of COVID, I haven't seen him in 2 years. We just got our second vaccination this week, so I think we're going to be able to get to the island
Beautiful.
in August. Mostly, I want to always, thank my wife and my son for their patience. My wife was carrying us for 3 years until I started making some money. And my son, who's putting up with like 18-hour days and whatever, and even like today, Father's Day, they're up at the skate park so I can be here. And as far as reaching us, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, mine is at Harker Shane. The company is at Rethink Rink, so Rethink RINC. We're probably most active on Instagram. We do lots of videos like with the larvae and dropping off the compost, and yeah, check the stuff out. And I'm hoping to
Look at
announce soon
Lizzie's
the
face.
farm, and maybe you guys come up and turn some compost with us next year or something.
That sounds like fun, actually. When we go see, we're going to see Rob sometime soon. So as soon as the border opens, so we'll just come see you as well, and we'll have Lizzie check out all the larvae, and we'll definitely we'll take video of it and post it.
We'll get Lizzie to spin the composter in the backyard here.
I'm going to see Robin Joe's Day. I don't know about compost.
You're not going to make a pit stop to see Shane and Rethink
No,
Results.
I'll go to the mall that day. I'll go to the mall that day.
All right, Shane. I want to thank you so much for joining us. This was a great interview,
Very,
great speaking with you, and you really, I believe you really taught us a lot. So we really appreciate
very
you joining us.
informative. Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Shane.
much
Shane.
for having me, guys.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you. All right, thanks, Shane. All right.
I appreciated that segment because I think it's something that we don't necessarily talk about
Yep.
in our day-to-day
Mhm.
lives, waste management. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I was just as he was talking, I was thinking of my refrigerator upstairs, and I know it's not good.
It's I throw out hundreds of dollars of food every month. It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
and,
It's
Robbie's not
disgusting.
happy about that either. That we're like
Yeah.
that
It,
because
you know what?
he
It
is the Boy
happens in
Scout of the
any
group.
household. It happens in every household. Joe and I have started using our green bin a few years ago, and we have our own composter in the backyard that we use for our garden and that we use for just general landfill in the yard. As I'm clearing rocks out of the backyard, well, it's nice to have something organic to dump in that will turn into earth.
Yeah, yeah. But Shane was a fantastic guest for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so it's time to get into our main topics. And if you've never been to TLS before, let me tell you a bit about how this part works. Each week, our hosts bring us topics in the news they want to discuss. That host will tell everybody what's going on, then our lovely panel will chat about it, sharing their unique points of view on the issue until we see our friend Gingy, who's celebrating Lizzie's birthday today. And that's when we know time is up, and it'll be time to hear from you. And we'll take your comments and questions online. Then at the very end, we'll check with the panel to see if they think this was truth, lies, or shenanigans. Now, keep in mind for our podcast listeners on Apple Podcasts, don't forget you can join in the conversation live every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We stream on all major platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, at TLSLiveShow or TLSShow.com. Let's get to it.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Let's start out with the birthday girl, Lizzie, today. You wanted to talk about your best friend, Chrissy Teigen. What's going on?
Hush your mouth. She's never been a friend of mine. Cannot stand her, but we're not going to get just into my opinion of Chrissy Teigen. We're going to talk about the totality of who she has been as a public figure over the past decade and some change. So, full disclosure. So, Chrissy Teigen, I used to work at Sports Illustrated. I was a editor, journalist at Sports Illustrated for 18 years. Chrissy Teigen used to be one of our swimsuit models.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right. Yep.
She actually appeared on one of the covers of SI Swimsuit. So back in the day when her foolishness first came to light, I couldn't publicly speak on it because it was a conflict of
Mhm.
interest with my job. However, behind the scenes, I was telling people she's not nice. She's a mean girl. I saw it in person. You could see it all over in the way she was interacting with people. But now we have fast forward to what is it, 2021, and it's all come to a head. It's all come to light. So in 2021,
Yeah.
we have Miss Courtney Stodden. Courtney Stodden, who 10 years ago was a 16-year-old and whose family encouraged her to marry a man who was what, 30 years her senior, if I'm not mistaken, if not more.
Uh-huh.
She was being pimped out for the purposes of her family. Chrissy Teigen decided that because this young lady, Courtney Stodden, had become um, public fodder, if you will. A lot of people were making fun of her, were, talking negatively about her, either on their talk shows or on Twitter, what have you. And Chrissy Teigen joined in the fray. So Courtney, not this isn't a new story with Courtney. Courtney a couple of years ago called Chrissy Teigen out for cyberbullying. Said that Chrissy was sending her text messages, sending her direct messages on Twitter, encouraging her to kill herself, calling her a whore, calling her all kinds of names. No one listened to Courtney a few years ago when she said it. Then, about 2 months ago, Chrissy Teigen decided that she was going to shut down, remove herself from Twitter because people were bullying her. She was encountering Twitter bullies, internet bullies. And at that time, Courtney was like, but what about your bullying? So again, she told her story. Nobody listened. Meghan McCain even came out on The View and likened herself to Chrissy Teigen, saying, I've been bullied on the internet too. Meghan McCain, who's also a troll, but that's a conversation for a different day. Fast forward to when Chrissy Teigen comes back to Twitter, because she wasn't away from Twitter for very long. She came back, reintroduced herself, and appeared as a victim of cancel culture, of internet bullying. And that's when Courtney Stodden, for the third time, came out and was like, okay, so I'm going to show you guys copies of the DMs that she sent me. Copies of the DMs where she was telling me that I was nothing, that I was a whore, that I should kill myself, that no one should like me. But it didn't start with Courtney Stodden. So the Courtney Stodden incident was 10 years ago, right? It initially started with a 9-year-old. It initially started with a 9-year-old actress who was nominated for the Oscars in 2013, if you will.
Yeah.
And her name is Quavenzane Wallace. And Chrissy Teigen initially got on Twitter and was like, am I allowed to say I don't like her? Am I allowed to say that she's a brat? Am I allowed to say that she's cocky? Again, this is a 9-year-old at the time. He retweeted something from The Onion, and The Onion was called out for this. The Onion called this 9-year-old actress a cunt.
So she retweeted it?
She retweeted it and she liked it. Okay. The Onion apologized for the bullying of this 9-year-old. Chrissy Teigen didn't. In addition to that, there was bullying of Lindsay Lohan, where she said, let me find the Lindsay Lohan quote. She tweeted to Lindsay Lohan. So Lindsay Lohan now adds a few more slits to her wrists when she sees actress Emma Stone. Okay. So that's what she tweeted to Lindsay Lohan. She tweeted she was bullying, I think, what is it? I can't remember the name of the MTV show. I think it's Teen Moms. Farrah Abrams. She tweeted about Farrah Abrams, called her a whore. So it's been a consistent timeline of bullying from Chrissy Teigen. So my question is, because I know a lot of you are like, why do we care about Chrissy Teigen? It's not that we care about Chrissy Teigen, but it's the cyber bullying here. And Chrissy Teigen was one of the people who stood up and came out against Donald Trump and all of his negative rhetoric on social media. So my question to you all is, if Donald Trump is banned from Twitter, why hasn't Chrissy Teigen been banned from Twitter? If you're going into people's DMs and telling them they need to kill themselves and calling them whores and all of these, why hasn't she been banned from Twitter? And Neil just posted, this is a new development in the story. And we'll get to that in a second. But I just want to get I want to get your opinion, your comments of why do you feel allowed to have this audience to grow her brand on the basis of being a social media mean girl?
Let's start with Rob B.
That's I agree with you. Like, cyberbullying is just straight out bullying, and some of the stuff like Chrissy Teigen isn't even on my radar, other than she's a cultural meme. She's in my face like the Kardashians. I can't not know who she is. Great. But
yeah, because she's not good at anything she does, from what I've seen, to be honest.
No, she really isn't. Like, I had to Google Chrissy Teigen.
I never found her attractive, for one.
Right? Okay, so when she was a swimsuit model, she had a good-looking body, but she's always had that moon pie peak chin face. It doesn't work for me. It's not, to me, and I've never understood America's fascination with her. I'll be completely honest. But Liz, I mean, if you were to go into people's private messages and direct messages, there would be a lot of people to cancel for, go kill yourself, you're a whore. I've been on the receiving end, just even as a gamer, some of the hate language that you feel when you put yourself online.
It's pretty bad.
You're definitely subject to it, yeah. But when you're a high profile figure and you start deliberately attacking people, and I really don't like the nature of these attacks, either telling someone to go kill themselves when you're in a high profile kind of environment. It's like you said, like this is just the mean girl. This is the cute girl that wanted to be one of the hot girls and fooled people into a modeling career. And now she's really just nothing. So she's just attacking for the sake of trying to fill that hole inside of her. Really, at this point, I
That's what
want
it
her to
feels like to me
apologize
as
for
well.
her past behavior and just walk away. She has more than enough money. Just walk away into the sunset, disappear. Please, you're a bully and you need to be erased from our collective memories.
Yeah.
Harker, please go away. Please, please.
Gianni.
I think the reason why Chrissy has a Twitter account still is because she has pretty privilege. I know that you guys say she's not attractive, but like you said, Rob, a lot of Americans find her attractive for some reason. And she's a supermodel, so it comes with like this territory, I guess.
Swimsuit
A swim
model.
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 Sorry,
Swimsuit.
she's not a
I thought she was
supermodel. Yeah,
considered a supermodel. No?
they
So
put that on the article, and then I'm like,
I challenge you as a swimsuit model. I challenge you to show me instances where she's walked several runways. I
I
challenge
haven't
you
seen
to
it.
show me several magazine covers that she's had. Like she's not. Her modeling career has been very limited. She's no Naomi Campbell. Okay, she's
No,
no Elon. She's no
no.
Crawford. Like she's not. She's specifically has been a swimsuit model.
Swimsuit model. Okay. So I think that because of that, she does have some type of privilege, and also it's like she's married to John Legend, and everybody loves him. He's like perfect almost in people's eyes. So I can see why she gets some slack. But I think that the reason we are even talking about Chrissy and why it's so important is because it kind of one of the articles, Liz, that you brought to us mentioned that within the scope of Christie's like rise and fall from Twitter, it shows a culture shift of what was accepted on Twitter or what was accepted publicly that versus now, and what makes her a good tweeter or a good person on Twitter. So
I agree.
I think that
I agree.
I think that is interesting because we got to see it firsthand manifest into Chrissy, who was like a troll, and now it's like not cool to be a troll at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I've never found her attractive in any way, shape, or form. I mean, even as a swimsuit model, I didn't find her attractive then. Um, I've never understood the infatuation with Chrissy Teigen. I just want to, I just want to point out Mike Winter's comment online where he said, "Not moon pie." I cannot.
No,
Let's
that,
talk about Rob B.
Rob picked up on that is like the internet name for her. Moon pie face. That's
Yeah, they will.
why
I'm not
yeah.
going to go there, but I'm just saying. I certainly didn't.
I don't think we should go there just because I don't want this to turn into a bashing.
Bad
Okay,
thing.
now we're bullying.
I mean, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I mean, so
That
it's
I need
But
to
she's
like
disrespectful.
Robin
She's
is
super
repeating
disrespectful.
what's out there. Like moon pie, that's one of her monikers. That's
yeah,
one of her monikers.
yeah. But even though she is, she's rude to other people. You don't want to be like her. So I tend to avoid those direct attacks and things. But it was
Yeah.
funny. I'm not gonna lie.
He's not working. So I left Sports Illustrated in 2016, and I just remember looking around and being like, why are we still celebrating or giving credence to this troll? Because even in 2016, 2015, 14 or whatever, she actually was probably worse back then because no one was really paying attention. There was no, the term cancel culture was not a part of our everyday lives. And so she
Yeah.
allowed do all of these things, and she was celebrated for it. It like Gianni said, it's only been within like the past couple of years that we've like taken a shift and been like, okay, this is not okay. So
Recently.
I think she should be canceled.
Yeah.
So, all right, as a whole, all right.
That's how.
All right, let's get these comments. Spend a couple minutes on these comments. There's a ton of comments for this. So yeah, we already told you Mike Winter's moon pie comment. That was hilarious. All right. Fred Hargrove says this sounds like bullying. We need to pray for her. Lady Annie Burrell says, regardless of who you are, bullying is not right. Many are brave behind the screen.
And Neo, just to help you out here, it's pronounced Betty. Drop the L.
Betty.
Yes.
Got it.
Any Betty.
Any Betty. Got it. All right.
Any Betty. That's pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty.
All right. Jacqueline Rom says, nope, the term supermodel is overused, and this chick certainly ain't it.
Yeah.
All right. Jeanette Brown says, this makes me sad. I appreciate her sharing publicly about her miscarriage. I like that she's a model who eats and loves food. I like that she took on DT. DT, I don't know DT. But Donald Trump. These revelations make me sad and give me pause. Not acceptable behavior. Mike Winter says, bash her for her ugly insides. All right, Olivia E says, from Unscripted, Olivia E, most models always have something awkward appearance-wise. That's true. That's kind of what makes them unique and yeah.
Most models don't necessarily come out with this type of visceral reaction to the world just so they can, gain Twitter followers. And, for Fred Hargrove, who said that we need to pray for her. I mean, if you guys feel the need to pray for her soul, that's fine. I don't see her as a victim here, especially now as she and her husband are trying to appear or make themselves out to be victims. Oh, I apologize. Well, Chrissy Teigen said you didn't apologize. You blocked her initially. So I think a lot of this PR machine. And again, my point is we can't treat her any differently than we treat someone like Donald Trump, who's had a social media platform and who's used it for ugliness, to incite ugliness. And she's done the exact same thing. And I think she's been treated up until this point. I think she's been treated with kid gloves.
Yeah.
And so
for sure.
All right. So we've got to get to our next topic.
So we call this truth, lies, or shenanigans.
Oh, thank you. Good.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
She's a liar.
I'm going with shenanigans. Definitely going for shenanigans. All right. So next up, we've got Rob B. Actually, we're going to go with Gianni Storm. Next up is Gianni Storm. You got a story about a dude on trial for killing his family. What's happening? What's happening with that?
Yeah, so definitely a turn in topics, but a Florida man was actually on a trial for double homicide, I believe. He was accused of killing his girlfriend and their disabled daughter. And he also was accused of attacking his 8-year-old son at the time. So this opening statement from him has actually gone viral on the internet because a lot of people are poking fun at the fact that, well, one, you are defending yourself in a murder trial, very risky, and then two, just how he presents himself. So we're gonna watch the video or a piece of it, and then I'm gonna get you guys. I have a question for the panel afterwards.
The evidence is going to show that we are under some of the most vicious, lying, fabricating, fictitious government you ever seen. By the time it's all said and done, you will see who is the mass murderers in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida.
Right, Gianni?
Yes, so that was part of his very long opening statement. Like I said, it went viral. And I want to know, is he innocent? Do you guys think, do you believe his argument if you watched the video? And do you believe that he should have went on trial without an attorney or any defense besides himself?
Oh, I can jump in on that. There's no way in the world he's not innocent. I mean, he's innocent. There's no way in the world he's innocent. Um, I mean, it's possible they tampered with evidence or got the investigation wrong. All that is possible, because they wanted to nail him. But I mean, his son testified.
Yeah.
Although what'd you say?
No, I think that that was the determining factor, that his
Yeah.
son was able to sit here and testify
Do
and
you think
say,
that son
Although I do
been
want to point out, a deputy did adopt his son. So a police officer adopted his son. So I mean, it could be, it's easy for them to put in their minds, the child's mind, some. I'm just saying it's possible. There's reasonable doubt,
I don't,
but not reasonable enough for me.
yeah, I don't think in this case that's what happened. The deputy adopted his son because the son's mama and sister were brutally murdered.
Yeah.
And the son said, "Mom did this to me." Like the little boy was saying what happened to him well before the adoption process began.
hmm
Um, so I think that has nothing to do with it.
I mean, I agree, but
What,
I'm just saying.
but what was your question, Gianni? I'm sorry. What was your question?
The question was, is he innocent
If you
and should
believe,
he have went on trial without an attorney? Sorry.
I mean, that's one of the rights you have as an American citizen. You have the right to defend yourself. And so,
Yeah.
do I think it's law? It's a part of the Constitution. Do I think that he should have done it? No. But it was his right to do so. I think a lot of people also took exception to the fact that his son was um, asked to testify, was forced to testify. And again, a part of our legal system requires that the defendant has a right to see their accuser. They have a right to stand there and look at and hear what their accuser has to say to them.
Mhm.
Now, in the case of this young man, he wasn't in this little boy, his son, he wasn't in the courtroom. He was in another location. He was on closed circuit television. He had what do you call it? Help me out here. A service animal with him
Mm.
in case he,
Oh,
in case
I
he
didn't even
needed.
realize that. Didn't pay attention.
Yeah, he
I
had
know
a
that.
service animal sitting there with him, and he had like his counsel with him. He had his psychologist with him. But this case is from this, and it's awful as it sounds. And I know it sounds awful. However, this is the legal system. Every defendant has the right to have their accuser, to see their accuser. And what we don't know is this little boy could have been like, I want to testify. Everyone's talking about how he could be traumatized or whatever. This could have been cathartic for him. He could have
I just
said,
want.
I want to tell my story.
There's a slight
And
difference between facing your accuser and questioning your accuser.
but the law allows for
Yeah,
that.
it
Like
does.
that's what the law like
Especially an
that's the
11-year-old child. I mean, there has to be exceptions for children. I'm
But
sorry,
why? But why? Because
because
you
it's
don't know.
children. They're
Because
more
just
important than justice sometimes.
because you alluded to the fact that the person who adopted this child could have influenced his testimony, someone else could have influenced his testimony, and he could be lying. We don't know
Yeah.
that. That's why we
Yeah.
need to hear his testimony under oath. And again,
Yeah.
we don't know what this child said to his lawyer, to his counselor, to the court. I want to testify. I want to tell my story. Listen, back in the 80s, I was a child who had to testify about something that happened to me. I was 12 years old. And I wanted to tell my story and put that motherfucker in jail.
All right.
And so
Yeah.
Let me get Rob in here. We only have a minute left.
Sure. So there's an old saying, and I abide by it: a man who is his own lawyer has a fool for a client. So no, he should not have tried
Fool
to
for.
step into those shoes. Absolutely not. And from what I've read while researching the story, the details certainly seem to point towards Ronnie O'Neill III being guilty. But that will be for the court and a jury of his peers to determine. Um, I'm not part of those proceedings, and there is a due process that needs to be followed. It was a violent homicide, and the son's testimony was absolutely heartbreaking to listen to, and it was just so weird. How you doing, son? Hey, son, how you doing? It was just
So
there's something that
awkward.
was surreal and weird about it, right?
It was.
He was
Yeah.
certainly on point and very knowledgeable of the facts of the events and the trial that was underway. But the emotional level that was there was either that of a desperate man who is innocent and pleading his innocence, or is it the emotional level of a sociopath, psychopath who's over emoting to try to convince a jury? So it'll be interesting to see how this develops.
All right, Johnny. Any final quick thoughts?
Just Rob, that was a really good breakdown because it can. I was thinking about it. I have a very I try to be as reasonable as possible and see all sides of things. So from his point, in my mind, I'm like, if I was to defend myself on a murder trial, I'm innocent 100% because there's no reason I would even test those waters. Like I have to be proven innocent. So like you said, Rob, it's either a man who's desperate and innocent, or it's a man who's just psychopathic, or like he's just crazy, you know? So I think it's the latter. I think he's crazy, and yeah.
There's something
That was
there's something a little
horrible story.
off. There's no question, especially the way he was yelling at it. It's
What
definitely
was
off.
he yelling?
He's not the first murderer to, decide that they're going to defend themselves. Like
Yeah.
this
Really?
happens a lot.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
All right.
this happens a lot. This happens a lot.
All right, let me get to
Unfortunately.
these comments online. So Jeanette Brown says, child does not need to be in the same room. Child should be protected from the abuser. Video enables this. I agree.
Mhm.
Protect victims' nervous systems. They didn't deserve the abuse, and they certainly don't deserve to be traumatized further. Jacqueline Robinson says small children are also allowed to testify in camera in judges' chambers, but that is determined by several factors. Yeah, I think there has to be certain exceptions for children. I'm sorry. I just believe there has to be certain exceptions for minors. I understand the law and how the law is written. I think they need to rewrite the law for children. So,
So
because
what
I
if
mean, you can make the argument that they're not face to
there is
face. They're not
should be
facing
there.
their
but
accusers.
again, you're not taking into account what the minor may want. Again, I
Oh
was
no,
one of
certainly, sure. If the minor wants it,
those minors. Okay. And back in the 80s, I was not given the option to be in a different room. If
yeah,
I was going to testify, I was going to have to be in the courtroom.
yeah. Mike Werner says,
And
Neil, how many rape victims have to appear in front of their rapist, right?
exactly, like
Yeah.
this is the law. Unfortunately, this is where we are.
Yep.
But if it happens that the case is going to turn over, if this young man does not testify, do you want to risk having his father out in possibly killing somebody else, killing another family? And so I agree. Like, you take all the provisions,
All right.
put him in a different room, which
If
is
you want
what
to talk
happened.
more about it further, get in the line. Get on the comments online. All right. Let's get into our last topic. Last topic. Oh,
Shenanigans.
was that truth, lies, or shenanigans, guys? Truth, lies, or shenanigans?
That
Shenanigans
was
again.
shenanigans, man.
Courtroom
Shenanigans.
shenanigans.
Okay.
All right.
They're always
So now we've got Rob B. Rock. They're tearing down racist monuments again, but it's around your way this time. What's going on?
Well,
Blame Canada.
right. Last week I had done a story about the 250 children's bodies that were discovered at the site of a Kamloops residential school, and as a result of this, it's a different climate in Canada. It's definitely a more woke conversation that's happening. So the statue of Egerton Ryerson, who was the founder of the residential schools, has been vandalized. It was painted with red paint and everything just to symbolize what had happened. But the city of Kingston, Ontario, has a statue of John A. Macdonald, who is Canada's first prime minister. Um, but the Kingston City Council, due to John A. Macdonald's role as an architect of Canada's residential school systems, he's the one that enacted it, who put it into law. Um,
Quickly, can you describe what the residential school system is?
The residential schools were a program that was a program that was federally sanctioned but run by religious institutions. And what they did is they took the indigenous population and they were trying to provide them with a more Eurocentric education. And basically, it was an assimilate. It was a program to assimilate the culture into Eurocentric values and education. So, and really, it did so much damage to the indigenous peoples that we really need to correct these things. So, the city of Kingston, the city council voted to remove John A. Macdonald statue from City Park, which is just a public park, a large public park in the area, and relocate it to the Kataraqui Cemetery, where he's buried in the city. So the event did attract a variety of spectators and protesters. There were indigenous groups that gathered to form a drum circle in the park. There was also a small group holding Canadian flags and playing bagpipes that briefly blocked the work. But after a brief conversation with the police services that were there, they broke it up and there was no violence that took place during this entire event. Some residents feel betrayed by the city councils by their decision to relocate the statue. But Councillor Greg Rivard, who brought forward the motion, was quoted as saying, "A statue is not it's not history. By removing Sir John A, it's not removing any history. A statue is symbolic of something, and I don't think that right now that the statue is symbolic of the right things." So City Park was meant to be enjoyed by all residents, and I mean, I can appreciate that it might be hard to enjoy family time at the park if you or a family member is a residential school survivor. So I personally applaud the city council of Kingston, Ontario, and I want to get your thoughts and opinions. Did the city council of Kingston get this one right?
Johnny?
I think so. I definitely think they read the room on this one because it's like you mentioned, I think they said that it doesn't take away the history, but this symbol doesn't it's not representative of anything good at this time. Like it's not doing anything for us. And it's actually hurting us. So let's take it away. I thought it was kind of like weird that people are you said that there were people there protesting, like I guess they were traditional Canadians. I don't know, you said bagpipes or something, like they
No.
were yeah, protesting to keep the statue there. I thought that was weird because it's kind of like, but why? Like let's progress. You know what I mean? Let's move forward. Especially given knowing the history if you're there. But Canada's turning into like a little America a little bit, like with all of these random like
I know Robert took offense to that.
It not be all shit.
Giving that the middle finger,
but
huh, Rob?
I think they did a good job in taking the statue or moving it to his gravesite.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. The decision to take it down. I mean, it's similar to what's happening in the U.S. You know, when we have all these racist Confederate soldiers who propagated racism and decided that they were probably a lot of the people that killed a lot of slaves, and it's just it's time to move on past those histories. We recognize what they are, who these people are, and they're not people who need to be celebrated. So I say, I like Jeanette Brown's comment, put it in a museum. I don't even like the fact that they're leaving it over his gravesite, because that's basically the residents paid for a memorial over his gravesite. So I say put it in a museum somewhere and just close it off, and then make sure we give him his footnote in history of this horribleness that he did. What do you think, Lizzie?
That's true.
I agree. Public statues mean public celebration. And these people should not be celebrated. There's a difference between celebration and fact. If you put it in a museum where it belongs, it's not celebration. You are alerting the public of factual events, something that happens. If you put it in the public, you're celebrating these people. You're like, yay, and that's not what we should be doing. And if the public decides that this should not be celebratory, then there you go. Like, we're not saying that there isn't a place for this. It's just that a lot of these supporters don't think that a museum or something else is the right place. Listen, if you want to celebrate this person, you buy some property and you put it on private land. There you go. Do your But since these are public, this is a public space, this is something that taxpayers are putting money into, then no. If the public says no moss, then no moss. Get rid of it and put it where it belongs.
And I want to see some, instead of like celebrating them, I want them to be noted for their horrible things that they've done in history. I want those things to be noted and cleared.
You're absolutely right, Neil, because on these statues, those horrible things are not noted.
Right. And so you see,
that this was the greatest person. He did no, he was a racist. He was a KKK member. He was lynching people. He was a serial killer. He was a rapist. Like, there are all of these things that aren't included in the public statue. Whereas if it were a museum, the National Museum is gonna include the truth from the beginning to the end.
All right, Robbie. Final thoughts when you.
Yeah, it's like these national monuments should have an asterisk, right? Okay, here's the Washington Monument. It's this amazing thing. Asterisk. George Washington owned slaves. Oh, shiza.
Yeah.
But it's to teach the real history, right? Because I recognize the importance of John A. Macdonald in Canada's history because he was our first prime minister. Well, okay, that's a big deal. Did he do certain things right? Sure, he moved Canada towards the next step. Were there a lot of things that were wrong with that? Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, North America is the last conquered land, if you will, and there's still a lot of atrocities that need to be ironed out. There's a lot of history that needs to be unearthed, and we just need to keep talking about it, moving the conversation in the right direction. So I applaud, again, the City Council of the City of Kingston for reading the room and doing the right thing.
All right, real quick on these comments online. Jeanette Brown says, devastating, horrifying, connected to alcoholism that is rampant on reservations. Yes, put in the museum. Jacqueline Robinson, you will never find memorials on of Nazis in Germany. And Mike Winter says there are zero.
It's not allowed. Like, Germany has done an excellent job.
A lot, in hearing that.
All Nazi paraphernalia, all Nazi nationalism, all of that stuff.
All right.
We're the ones here who still kind of celebrate and applaud slavery.
All right.
North America.
Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Truth and shenanigans.
Truth. I'm all about truth.
Truth and shenanigans.
I'm all about truth. This truth needs to go.
Truth, but the action, shenanigans.
All right. All right. Great topics, guys. Enjoyed it. And now it's time for Shenanigans, the game show. We got to lighten this up. We're going to do something a little different. I realized recently there's one person that has not been, or two people actually, but one of the two people have not been on the hot seat yet. So we're putting Lizzie. You were on the hot seat? When were you on the hot seat, Lizzie? I don't remember you being on the hot seat. Were you back on the hot seat? I don't remember you being on the hot seat. I know Robbie. Have you been on the hot seat?
I've been in the hot seat.
I thought
Yeah.
you had been on the hot seat.
I think we've all been on the hot seat.
I
Go
haven't been
ahead.
on the hot seat. I thought you hadn't been on the hot seat. Well, you're going to be on the hot seat again. It's your birthday. So the way it works is I'm going to ask several quick fire questions, and Lizzie will, as quickly as possible, say the first answer that comes to her mind. And so, Lizzie, are you ready for the hot seat?
Can you guys see your birthday? You guys can see
I
that.
see your
Yes.
birthday.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
It's very little.
All right. So here's the first one. You're auditioning for American Idol. What's your go-to song to sing?
Prince. Cream, get on top.
Okay, all right. You get an extra hour to your day. What are you doing with that hour?
Research.
Okay. Worst food you've ever eaten?
Liver.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. Best food you've ever eaten?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It depends on the day. Like that. I don't think I could answer.
Could do another day. All right, Julia Roberts movies or Kevin Hart movies?
First of all, I loathe both of these actors. You have to go with Miss Julia because Kevin Hart, has made some disparaging comments about dark-skinned Black women, so we don't support him. Julia Roberts.
All right, first vacation after COVID, all-inclusive beach resort or Finland?
Finland.
All right, we're throwing a TLS event with all of your super fans. What's your entrance theme song?
What?
That's hard.
Glamorous Life by Sheila E.
Glamorous Life by Sheila E. I can see that, actually. All right, last one. Describe yourself in one word.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. All right. You are off the hot seat again, apparently. All right. Good job. Let's get this in again. Gotta celebrate the birthday.
I'm old, though. I'm old.
She's old. All right, we got 1 minute left. Let's get in some shout outs. All right, Johnny Storm, shout outs.
Shout out to my brother. I love you so very much. Shout out to you on Father's Day. And shout out to my stepfather, my biological father, and to Neo, and to Rob, and to all the men and all the single women. Single mothers, sorry.
Robbie Rock.
Well, to build on that, I want to give a shout out to all of the dads, the single moms, same-sex, non-male couples, non-binary, gender-neutral parents, and anyone else in the mix that I may have missed. A very happy, all-inclusive Father's Day to all of you. I've seen some social media posts attacking Father's Day, saying that it's not inclusive. You know what? If you're filling those shoes, then absolutely you are to be celebrated today.
Who's attacking Father's Day?
SJWs.
SGWs. All right, Lizzie, shout outs.
That made me cough. That's so ridiculous. Shout out to my new job, the Undefeated, and my interns fellows. It was a rough week, a lot of deadlines this week, but we got 3 stories up for my interns online this week. So I'm very proud of them and looking for bigger, better stories over the course of the next year. So I'm very proud of you guys. Shout out to you.
All right. All right, I got to give my shout out to my dad. My dad, love you, Dad. So I appreciate everything you've done throughout my life, and you've always been supportive and provided kind thoughts and words with everything. So I thank you for just being you. And our final shout out.
Shout out to your dad because he tunes into the show.
Every show.
Yeah.
All right. And our final shout out goes to a winner of our Pet Shenanigans of the Week, Lisa Young.
So cute.
She provided a photo of her beautiful, huge German Shepherd sitting on top of her kitchen island with the caption, "My dog when I'm trying to teach my students from home." To see Lisa's pup and all of the beautiful pets, go to your favorite pets photo. Go or post your favorite pet's photo. Make sure you join our TLS Pet Shenanigans Facebook group. The photo with the most likes and comments gets a TLS shout out each and every week. All right, and that is officially all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective, or even got some things off your chest. Don't forget, like, follow, and subscribe. Tomorrow, check out YouTube for clips at TLSshow.com. And the next TLS Live show is on June 27th, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a guest host sitting in for Lizzie. Jose will be joining us. And don't forget, this Wednesday, 8 p.m., Gianni Storm, Olivia E. will be going unscripted once again. And the birthday girl, the hot seat winner, final thought for the day.
It's my birthday on Thursday. I am going to be bombarding everyone with a lot of Liz E, Elizabeth Eleanor fabulousness. So, okay.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, and happy birthday, Lizzie. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Thank you, Shane Harker of Rethink Resource, for joining us. Check out Rethink Resource at www.rethink-resource.com. Thank you, Gianni, Rob, Lizzie, and people behind the scenes, Jose, Olivia. Most importantly, thank you for joining us. And we will see you guys the next time.
Shenanigans.